The Lord is risen. We continue to celebrate the resurrection, and we continue to explore different aspects of the resurrection as depicted in great works of art. This Sunday we have one of the most beautiful stories in the Bible, the story of Emmaus. Easter afternoon, two disciples are going away from Jerusalem, despondent, and Jesus approaches them. They don't recognize him, and he explains the scriptures to them. He opens their hearts, he opens their minds to the scriptures. He's there, but they don't recognize him. And then they stop to have supper. They say, "Stay with us. The day is nearly over." So they go in. Jesus takes bread, breaks it, and gives it to them. And at that point, they not only see him, they recognize him, and he disappears. And then they return back to Jerusalem. Jesus has accompanied them, but he has led them to conversion, just both spiritually and literally, to turn around. This is a depiction of the supper at Emmaus by the great Spanish painter Diego Velázquez. This was painted in the 1600s. This might be a bit of a tribute to a depiction of the same event by Caravaggio a few decades earlier. And so you see the risen Christ at the table, and you see two of his disciples. Jesus has broken the bread, and he's looking out. But the two disciples, they recognize him. They recognize him now. And think about the emotion of that. We hear these stories so often, I think we can lose the impact that they thought he was dead, and he's alive. And there he is right before them. And so the one on the far side sees what's happening, and he's looking at the other disciple. He's pointing with his right hand. The other disciple is taken aback. He is looking at Christ, and his left hand is stuck out towards us. He has that moment of recognition as well. They listened to Jesus as he explained the word, and they later said, "Our hearts were burning within us." But it was in the breaking of the bread, it was in the Eucharist that they recognized him. And so that is this moment. And the two disciples are dressed pretty much what we would consider contemporary clothing for the 17th century. Jesus is depicted in what we consider more biblical clothing of the time. One of the things I like about this is look at Jesus' hand. The stigmata, the nail mark, is there. The risen Christ still bore his wounds. But what were symbols of hatred now become symbols of love. Symbols of divine hatred now become symbols of divine love. Jesus reveals himself to us in word and sacrament. What the disciples of Emmaus experienced is what we experience at every celebration of the Eucharist, at every Mass. Jesus reveals himself to us in word and then in sacrament. May we always recognize Jesus in his word. May we always recognize him in the breaking of the bread, in the Eucharist, at Mass. And may we always respond with loving hearts, hearts of conversion that always lead us spiritually and literally back to him. God bless you all.